Africanus Horton, 1835 to 1883, scientist and African patriot. Africanus Horton was a surgeon, scientist, soldier, and a political thinker who worked toward African independence a century before it occurred. Born James Beale Horton, he grew up on Gloucester Village, the son of an Igbo recaptive who worked as a carpenter. Horton was educated at the CMS Grammar School and at the Fora Bay Institution to study, later Foron IA College, and in 1853 received a War Office scholarship, Great Britain. He studied at King's College, London, and Edinburgh's Versity, qualifying as a medical doctor in 1859. While a student, he icocked the name Africanus as an emblem of pride in his African homeland. Africanus Horton joined the British Army Medical Service the year he completed his medical studies and was appointed assistant staff surgeon. He was one of the first Africans to qualify as a medical doctor and one of the first to serve as an officer in the British Army. He continued in the Army for the next 21 years, attaining the rank of lieutenant colonel. He spent most of that time in the Gold Coast, Ghana, where he took an active interest in scientific research. He published several studies involving tropical diseases, climate and meteorology, and geology. But despite his dedicated and professionally competent service, the British authorities were not anxious to see an African advance too far. They shifted Horton constantly from one post to another and rejected his application in 1872 for the position of governor of the Gold Coast. But, despite his disappointments, Horton continued to believe that Africans could advance under the banner of British colonialism. In 1865, that Africans be given increasing responsibility for administering their Select Committee of the British House of Commons had suggested own affairs. The same year, Horton published Political Economy of British Western Africa, a book calling for the establishment of a West African university along British lines. 3 years later, he published his popular West African Countries and Peoples, calling for nothing less than the establishing independent West African nations in the Gambia, Sierra Leone, etc. He argued for British assistance in moving these African countries towards self-rule and presented plans for education, economic development, and medical improvements. But the Select Committee's recommendations were not popular with British authorities, who looked toward increasing their control, not decreasing it, and Horton began to be seen as an enemy of British policy. Africanus Horton retired from the army in 1880 and returned to Freetown. Ever the optimist and believer in progress, he set up a commercial bank to assist struggling African entrepreneurs. But only 3 years later, at the age of 48, he died suddenly of blood poisoning. Horton had left funds for the setting U of a secondary school of high standard, but his endowment proved insufficient. Much of his estate went for the funding of scientific education at the Sierra Leone Training School. Africanus Horton's countrymen would have to wait for almost a century before his dreams of political independence would be realized.